Hello everyone, welcome back to the Spotlight. It's been a very long time since I made one of these videos, but after a decent-ish season, I feel like it's time to get into some of my points of view. I think what's going on. I've said nothing on the sale, nothing around what's been going on recently, so I just wanted to have a quick chat and just put my thoughts out there and see what anyone thinks about it. So for me, we'll start on the sale. For one, we absolutely need, in my opinion, 100% sale. Before we get into any of what's been going on in the timescales, I have nothing against Ratcliffe, or I'm not in particular favour of Qatar or anyone, but Qatar are the only ones offering 100% sale, so that is why I'm on the side of Qatar. Ratcliffe clearly does not have enough money to invest in the club to buy it outright, so yes, he's got Ineos behind him. Yes, he's got his so-called little plan to buy the Glazers out in 2 or 3 years. But if he cannot buy them out now, why do we want him? And yes, I know there's a lot of people out there who are talking about morals. He's a United fan, he's an English bloke, blah, blah, blah. Why do you want Qatar? All their human rights issues. I mean, let's put it this way. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a so-called Man United fan who wants to get in bed with the Glazers. Whether he wants them out in 3 years or now or never, if he's a true Man United fan, he shouldn't be putting any form of plan into place where they're staying. Number 2, he's got a Chelsea season ticket. He's a billionaire. Yeah, he might live close to Chelsea's ground. There's people who travel up from London every week to come watch Man United. If he was that big of a Man United fan, he'd have a Man United season ticket and he'd be at the ground every week. Let's not pretend this isn't a problem. Maybe his big-time businessmen mates have all got Chelsea season tickets and they go for a social, which is fine. I've not really got anything about him going to Chelsea per se. But if he's that big a Man United fan, Sir Jim Ratcliffe could get to Manchester every weekend to watch Man United. And that's all I'm saying about that. His company, Ineos, a petroleum company. So let's not pretend he's not involved in the Middle East in one way or another, or farming oil and whatnot. You don't become a billionaire by being clean. I'm sure Sir Ratcliffe has got plenty of dirt on his hands himself. But that's enough on him. On Qatar, I mean, yes, nobody can be a fan of Qatar's morals. Call it sports washing, call it what you want. The fact is that the morals are gone in football already. If the Premier League want to block this deal, they should have blocked the Newcastle one. Fair enough, City have got crazy owners. But that was done, 10 years or so ago now. They could have easily blocked the Newcastle sale to Saudi, and then they'd have a precedence to block the Qatar deal for Man United. But with letting that Saudi deal for Newcastle go through in the last year or so, I don't think they've got any grounds to block a Qatar bid. As for the Glazers, they're clearly just clinging on for as much money as they can, aren't they? Whether they end up selling full or they end up staying, they're absolute leeches from the club. And you're obviously all Man United fans, you're going to be watching this, so I don't need to go into the reasons why. But it's quite clear out there's a lot of people who don't understand the reason why Man United fans want rid of the Glazers, to just see the amount of money they've spent on transfers and pretend that they've been spending a fortune and that they've not been bad owners. But they're the people that need to go do some research. So just to clarify the point on the ownership, I think the Glazers are taking the absolute mick with 3 rounds of bidding. We should already be finalising this deal, and personally I do actually think a deal will be come to by the end of the season. Whether it will fully be in place by the summer is very unlikely, but I think they will come to a deal and an agreement which will allow whoever the new owners are to do some business in the window. I cannot see the Glazers in this current model being still in charge the way they are now come the summer. It has got to go through in some way before the summer, else we're going to be in a massive massive pickle when it comes to the start of the window and into next season. And just on the team now, the team are overachieving. And if you've ever watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know what I think of certain players like Rashford, Bruno and the likes. I think Erik ten Hag has done a great job, number one, by just ditching Maguire. Whatever you think of Maguire, he's not good enough. He just isn't good enough to play for Man United. I'm not even going to get into it. You know the reasons why. Rashford, you know that I would have sold him at this last summer. He's been 2 or 3 years absolutely awful. Yes, he's had a very, very good season this year. And personally, I have come round to Rashford a bit. But over the last month or so, he's gone back to his old self of trying to take people on and losing the ball, shooting from all over the place. Yes, he's scored a lot of goals and we've been ultra reliant on him, so I'm not going to be too harsh on Rashford. But what I will say about him and Bruno Fernandes, who are two of our best players, don't get me wrong here, I'm not pretending they're not, because they are. But would either of those players play for City? And people say to me, we shouldn't be comparing yourself to City, you're not at their level. Is that not the level we're trying to be at? We're supposed to be Man United, the biggest club in the world, the most successful club in the Premier League. We need to be as good as City, if not better. And does Bruno Fernandes or Rashford play for either of them? I don't think they do. And you know the reason why? And I will say this over and over and over again to people, and they don't get it, is they're not possession-based players. They're counter-attack players. So under Solskjaer, in certain games, they perform. Bruno is a risk taker. He loses the ball too much. I don't care what his stats are. If I kick a ball 30 times a game trying to do a through ball, eventually one or two of them's going to come off. And Rashford, as we know, they've gone in a lot this year. But it's back to when we had a good season under Solskjaer and were Moments FC, when Rashford was smashing goals in from all over the place. None of them are real chances. It's just potluck shots and getting through on a counter-attack and finishing. If Ten Hag is apparently supposed to be of the Pep mould, the Klopp mould, even the Brighton mould, where we take full control of the ball, control games and pin teams back in their own 18-yard box, I'm afraid you will never do it with Rashford and Bruno. And I'm talking long term here. I wouldn't be selling them this summer, but over the next 2 or 3 years, if we're looking to progress to win Premier Leagues and compete with City, they cannot be playing like they're playing now. They've either got to evolve the game and become a lot more intricate, pass and move around the 18-yard box. At the moment, it's Rashford gets to the 18-yard box, has a shot. Bruno gets to the 18-yard box, and he'll have a shot, or he'll try some extravagant flick or through ball, which just gives the ball away. And then we're transitioned on again. We've been massively over-reliant on the defence. I think I saw some stat yesterday where we scored as many goals as Leicester. We're 20-odd goals behind Tottenham and Liverpool. And just on to the defence and the goalkeeper, there's a lot of talk about David De Gea. Personally, I have come round to the side that I do think we need another keeper. Is he a big issue? I actually think he is. He cannot command his box. He's not great with his feet. And yes, he's a good shot stopper. The one at the weekend versus West Ham was a howler. Every keeper has a howler. But I think there was some match today where it showed that he was the top keeper for errors leading to opposition goals this season. So it does show you that if we are trying to play this passing out type of football, it does have to come from the keeper. And I mean, I don't want to get onto De Gea too much. We have got the best clean sheet record. And I do think that the forwards do need to take some blame, because if Ederson or Alisson or another keeper makes a mistake like De Gea makes at the weekend, 9 times out of 10, the other 10 players on the pitch will go and score 3 and they'll still win the game. And you forget about it. But if De Gea seems to make a mistake at the minute, we're not scoring, so those mistakes are highlighted tenfold. And it looks like he's the reason why we've lost the game. It's a 90-minute game, that West Ham game. The same as the Brighton game with Luke Shaw. It's a 90-minute game and we haven't scored a goal. You've got 85 million quid Anthony. We've got Martial, 40 million quid. So-called... I think Martial's a good player. Do I think we should sell him? Absolutely. He's been there 8 years. He's on stupid money. He's too injury prone. He has not proven he can score 20 plus goals a year. And then you've got Rashford, who's hit and miss. One game, he's unbelievable. The next game, he's a ghost. You've got Sancho, who in my opinion is... People are calling Anthony a flop. Sancho is a flop. Sancho's been here, 2.5 seasons now. He's been gone 18 months with some kind of issues that he's had. He's had moments where he looks good. I do think he's a player that can play intricately round the box, which is something Rashford can't do. But I don't think he's got the appetite. He hasn't got the work rate, the attitude that you need to get back and do the doggy work. I think Anthony has that attitude. I think Anthony is a good player. But are you telling me you can be an £85 million Man United right winger who can't use his right foot? I mean, I'm all left foot, but I'm a frigging Sunday League player. He's an £85 million talented footballer and he cannot use his right foot. If I was Ten Hag, I'd be tying his left foot up and making him use his right foot only. He's got to learn to use his right foot, or even potentially try him on the left wing, because that's getting on to chance creation. Forwards wise, we're having an absolute disaster. Obviously, we have Weghorst, who, as much as he can try and run around, and he tries his best, and I've got nothing really against Weghorst, he's just not good enough, is he? Let's face it. Martial, too many chances, too injury prone. For me, at best, you keep him as a backup striker for a year, because I very much doubt we're going to buy 2 strikers. And that leaves you with people like Mawani, that Højlund, Kane and Osman probably as the 4 options. For me, Mawani and Højlund, there probably would be a decent striker to bring in if we already had an established striker. For me, we are desperate for someone who's going to score goals. So them two, unless you're getting them on the cheap and we're buying 2 strikers, they're not for me. Osman, I would absolutely take, but he's coming from Serie A for a price tag of way over 100 million. Lukaku went to Serie A, and look how bad he was for us, and he tore it up there. Osman might be the next greatest striker to come out of anywhere, and maybe we'll miss the boat on him. But for me, right now, 120 million plus for Osman from Serie A is a massive, massive risk when we need a goal scorer. So that moves me on to Kane. And the amount of hate in the community Kane gets is crazy. I cannot believe people are... If Kane was playing anywhere else in the world, everybody would want him. He's 30. He's injury prone malarkey. He's a load of nonsense. He's not had a serious injury for years now. He's playing in a horrific Tottenham team. Assists like mad. Scores in nearly every single game they play in the Premier League. Get him for 80 to 100 million quid and stick him up front for Man United. And whether we're creating chances for him or not, he will put the ball in the net. If you're telling me Kane's not worth 80 to 100 million quid, you need to go watch a different sport. How can you say we've just paid 85 million quid for Anthony and he's saying Kane's not worth 80 to 100. We spent 75 million quid on Sancho who can't start. Even if Kane lasts 3 years, we're getting taken over. We're getting investment. Forget the money that he costs. He will score us goals without a doubt and create. He's an all-round world-class footballer. Just because he plays for Spurs and in the Premier League and he's not won anything. I mean, what's Osman won till this year? He's won one Serie A title with Napoli. And everyone's raving about him like he's... You know what I mean? Lukaku looked like prime Thierry Henry in Serie A. It's a massive risk taking someone from there, in my opinion. You've got Tammy Abraham playing for Roma, bagging for fun in Serie A. Nobody mentions this, but you've got to think of where he's coming from and the players that have gone there and performed and not performed in the Premier League. So yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it there. I don't know how long I've been talking for, but I wanted to put out just what I think. Do I think it's been a successful season? Yes. We've got to hang on to top 4. We cannot let Liverpool get that, and it is going to be tough because we've got some teams that on paper are going to be easy to beat, but they're all down the bottom fighting for their lives. We've got some tough games that they're going to have to dig in and try and work hard to win these games because the teams down there we've got, I think it's Wolves and people like that, they need the wins. It's not going to be easy. You've got Liverpool who have hit form. They don't look like losing again at the minute, even though they still look shaky. It's going to be tough to get in that top 4. And Newcastle are just... They had a bit of a rough patch, but they've come back out of it. I mean, I wish we played football like Newcastle. They're unbelievable. And they've got nowhere near the supposed talent we've got. So that is what I think of it now. I'll try and do a couple more updates moving on closer to the end of the season. But I do think a Carabao Cup and top 4, an FA Cup final, is a very, very good first season for Ten Hag. And I know the expectations were Europa League, but I think if we get top 4 and a trophy, we would have all taken that. We've just got to hang on to this top 4 and obviously pray that Real Madrid or ourselves can take one of these trophies off City so they don't do the treble. But anyway, I'll see you on the next one, and peace out, everybody.